All right, so today we're going to unlock some serious client whispering skills.
Ooh, I like that.
You gave me some notes about understanding client personalities.
Yeah,
And it looks like we're using a YouTube channel called The Consultant as our source.
that's right.
This channel's all about career strategies, but what we're going to uncover today applies to anyone who wants to, really nail client interaction,
Yes, indeed.
not just for consultants.
It's about understanding the psychology behind successful communication,
Yeah.
not just ticking off boxes, like
Right.
really getting into the nuance.
So let's dive into these 4 personality types.
Mm-hmm.
The consultant outlines.
Okay,
The driver, the analytical, the amiable, and the expressive.
sounds good.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll have some seriously powerful tactics to connect with any client.
Tactics that work because they're built on a foundation of genuine understanding. That's the real key here.
Okay, so the first thing that jumped out at me from the consultant is how important it is to understand personality in the first place.
Right.
I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
We have a great idea, a solid product, but it just doesn't land with the client.
And often it's because we're so focused on the what that we forget about the who.
Yeah.
We need to remember that we're not dealing with algorithms.
Right.
We're dealing with people, each with their own motivations and communication styles.
So true. All right, let's break down these personality types.
Yeah.
First, we have the drivers.
Okay.
These are the folks who are all about action results, getting things done yesterday.
Think of a driver as someone who sees time as their most valuable resource.
Nah.
They're not interested in fluff or small talk.
Right.
They want to know the bottom line, the impact, and the plan of attack.
So instead of making small talk, I should probably just cut straight to the chase with a driver.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Imagine you walk into a driver's office and it's actually on fire.
Oh, no.
Would you start chatting about the weather?
Probably not.
No, you'd probably be shouting, "Fire extinguisher over there!"
Yeah, get out of the building.
That directness, that focus on immediate action and solutions, that's how you need to approach communicating with a driver.
Okay, so drivers are all about speed.
Yeah.
On the flip side, we have the analyticals who are meticulous, detail-oriented, and love data.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably the ones asking all the why questions, right?
Absolutely. For analyticals, data is king.
Yeah.
They don't take anything at face value. They want the evidence, the research, the logic behind every statement.
I can see how that could be a strength, but also a challenge.
Yeah.
If I'm not super prepared, an analytical client could really put me on the spot.
That's why preparation is key when dealing with this type.
Yeah.
Don't just come armed with opinions, come armed with facts, figures, and case studies.
Okay.
And be prepared for a longer decision-making process because analyticals don't rush into anything.
Now let's talk about the amiables.
Okay.
These are the relationship builders, the collaborators, the ones who value harmony and teamwork.
Amiables are all about creating a win-win scenario.
Right.
They want to make sure everyone feels heard, that the solution benefits the whole group, and that the process is well amiable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So with an amiable, I'd want to emphasize collaboration and building consensus rather than pushing for a quick decision.
Exactly. Highlight the benefits to the team, showcase how your solution fosters a positive working environment, and build a genuine rapport.
Yeah.
For amiables, the relationship is just as important as the outcome.
And finally, we have the expressives.
Right.
I'm picturing big ideas, brainstorming sessions, and maybe a whiteboard covered in colorful diagrams.
You're getting the picture.
Yeah.
Expressives are the visionaries.
Mm-hmm.
They're energized by possibilities, creative solutions, and thinking outside the box.
I bet pitching a new marketing campaign to an expressive would be a blast. They'd probably have a million ideas in the first 5 minutes.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
But remember, they can also get sidetracked by all that enthusiasm.
Right.
Your job is to channel that energy, help them focus, and translate those brilliant ideas into actionable steps.
So it's like being a conductor, guiding their creative orchestra towards a harmonious symphony.
I like that. You're catching on quickly. But remember, this is just the beginning of understanding how to work with these personality types.
You're right. We've got these 4 types laid out: driver, analytical,
Yeah.
amiable, and expressive.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering,
Yes. What are you thinking?
well, I'm thinking that these categories, while super helpful, are probably a bit too neat and tidy.
Yeah.
Real people are much more complex, right?
Well, absolutely.
I can totally see someone having driver tendencies in some situations,
Ah,
but also showing amiable traits in others.
that's a brilliant point.
Yeah.
Think of these types as starting points,
Okay.
a framework for understanding personality,
Right.
but not the entire picture.
So they're not the whole story.
Each client is a unique blend of traits,
Uh-huh.
shaped by their experiences, their values,
Okay.
and even their mood on a particular day.
So if those broad categories are just the tip of the iceberg,
Mm.
how do we go deeper?
Mm.
How do we uncover those individual nuances that really make a client tick?
It all comes down to observation and active listening. Really paying attention to the subtle cues in how your client communicates,
Hmm.
what they prioritize, and how they respond to different approaches.
So I've really got to be paying attention.
It's like becoming a personality detective.
I like that. Yeah.
Putting on your detective hat.
So instead of just labeling someone as a driver,
Right.
I'm looking for clues to understand their specific brand of driverness.
Exactly. For example, you might notice a client who's laser focused on deadlines,
Yeah.
a classic driver trait,
Mm-hmm.
but then observe how they interact with their team.
Okay.
Are they delegating, effectively trusting others to get the job done?
Right.
Or are they micromanaging every detail? That tells you a lot about their individual leadership style.
Interesting. And what about nonverbal cues?
Mm.
I've definitely noticed that some clients are super expressive with their body language, while others are more reserved. Are those clues worth paying attention to?
Absolutely. Body language can be a gold mine of information.
Okay.
Pay attention to things like eye contact. Do they hold your gaze directly? Or do they tend to look away?
Okay.
How about their posture? Are they leaning in, engaged, and energetic?
Yeah.
Or are they sitting back more guarded and observant?
I see.
Even small gestures like how they use their hands can reveal a lot about their personality and how they're processing information.
So it's a bit like being a detective, piecing together all these little clues to build a complete picture of the client's personality,
Yes,
their motivations, even their potential anxiety.
precisely. And the more you practice this, the better you'll become at reading people,
Yeah.
understanding their unique needs, and adapting your approach accordingly.
Right.
It's a skill that takes time and attention, but the payoff is huge.
Because when you can speak to someone in a way that resonates with their personality, they're more likely to trust you.
Without a doubt, it's about going beyond the transactional and building a genuine connection.
Yeah.
When clients feel understood and valued, they're more likely to embrace solutions,
Yeah.
be open to new ideas, and ultimately become true partners in achieving success.
Okay, so we've talked about identifying these individual nuances, but how do we actually apply that knowledge?
That's the million-dollar question.
Let's get practical. For example, let's say I'm working with a driver,
Okay.
who I've also observed to be a bit of a micromanager. What's my best strategy there?
Remember, drivers are all about efficiency and results.
Yeah.
So when presenting ideas, keep it concise, focus on the bottom line, and demonstrate a clear path to achieving their goals.
So skip the long-winded explanations and get straight to the point.
Exactly.
But how do I handle the micromanaging tendency?
Instead of overwhelming them with details, offer them options.
Okay.
For example, you could say, here are 3 potential strategies, each with its own projected timeline and impact on your key metrics. Which one resonates most with you?
Okay, so I'm giving them a sense of control while still keeping things focused and efficient.
Right.
What about analyticals? Any tips for working with them, especially if they're the type who seems a bit skeptical of everything?
With analyticals, remember, data is their language. Back up every claim with solid evidence research case studies.
Yeah.
Don't just tell them something will work. Show them the data that proves it, and be prepared for a lot of questions.
So instead of getting defensive, I should welcome those questions as an opportunity to showcase my expertise and build their confidence in the solution.
Exactly. You're showing them that you respect their need for thoroughness.
Right.
And you're not afraid to delve into the details that builds trust and credibility.
This is making so much sense. We've talked about drivers and analyticals, and we know Amiables need that collaborative approach, and Expressives thrive on creative energy. But what happens when you have a client who seems to be a mix of different types? How do you adjust on the fly?
That's where your observation skills really come into play.
Yeah.
You might need to flex between different communication styles, depending on the situation and the topic at hand.
So, like, I might start a meeting with an expressive client by mirroring their enthusiasm, brainstorming some big-picture ideas, but then shift to a more data-driven analytical approach when we start discussing budget and timelines.
You got it. It's about being adaptable, reading the room, and adjusting your communication style to create a connection with the client in that moment.
It really is like an art form.
It is.
And it sounds like mastering this art can be the difference between a good client relationship and a truly great one.
I couldn't agree more. When you can connect with someone on their level, speak their language, and understand their unique motivations, that's when the magic happens. But I'm curious what's on your mind. You seem to have a question brewing.
Well, you've got me thinking about the flip side of all this.
Yeah.
We've talked about adapting to different personalities, but what happens when a client's personality style starts to work against the project?
That's a great question. And a tricky one to navigate. It's like walking a tightrope.
Yeah,
You want to honor their personality and build that rapport,
right,
but you also have a responsibility to steer the project towards success.
right. Like what if you have a driver who's making decisions so quickly they're not thinking things through?
Yeah.
Or an amiable who's so conflict averse that important issues are getting swept under the rug. How do we handle those situations?
I think the key is to frame your feedback in a way that aligns with their personality.
Okay.
You're not trying to change who they are,
Right.
but you are trying to guide them towards a more effective approach.
So it's about being strategic with my communication.
Exactly. Let's take the example of the impulsive driver.
Okay.
Instead of saying, hey, you're rushing into this,
Which might make them mad.
which might trigger a defensive response, you could try, I love your energy and how quickly you're moving things forward.
Yeah.
To make sure we're making the best possible decision, could we take a quick look at some key data points together just to minimize any potential risks?
Ah, I see. So I'm acknowledging their strength, their decisiveness, but also subtly introducing the need for a more measured approach.
That's it. And you're doing it in a way that appeals to their desire for success. You're
Right.
essentially saying, let's make sure this is a win.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What about the amiable who's avoiding conflict? How do I encourage them to address those tough issues without making them uncomfortable?
Remember, amiables value harmony and connection.
Right.
So you might say something like, I really appreciate your collaborative spirit and how you make sure everyone feels heard. To make sure we're creating the strongest possible solution. I think it's important for everyone to feel comfortable sharing their honest perspectives, even if they disagree. Ultimately, that's how we'll come up with something that truly benefits everyone involved.
So I'm framing open communication as a way to strengthen relationships and reach a shared goal,
Yeah.
which aligns perfectly with their
We've
values.
got it. You're speaking their language, and that makes all the difference.
Wow, this is so insightful.
Yeah.
It really shows how understanding personality goes way beyond just surface level interaction. It's about building trust, navigating challenges, and ultimately creating stronger partnerships with our clients.
I couldn't agree more. It's about recognizing that each client is an individual with their own unique strengths and ways of seeing the world. And when we can meet them where they are, that's when the real magic happens.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've gained so many valuable insights that I can apply to my interactions right away.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, the more you practice these principles, the more intuitive they will become. You'll start to notice those subtle cues, adjust your communication style effortlessly, and build those genuine connections that are the foundation of any successful client relationship.
And that's something for all of you listening to think about. How can you use these insights to unlock deeper, more meaningful connections with your clients? Until next time, keep diving deep.